No way. No way a 49er made a 59er field goal to beat us with no seconds left on the clock when we should have tied the game. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Mikey Raider, with the post-game aftermath of the Raiders versus the 49ers. And I'm going to give you my take, my reaction. But first off, please do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up, that like, that subscribe button. Consider becoming a member of this channel for early and exclusive content such as this and future live streams. And if you'd like to help your boy out while I struggle financially and mentally with this team, please, I have donation portals down below. I have a Cameo for shout-outs, and I got a merchandise store for some other stuff, and you can find some good stuff there. All right. If you want to play fantasy football versus me, we have one open spot. Hit me up in an email with information down below if you'd like to play in the Raider Central Live Fantasy Football League. All right, first off, let's start with the positives. We could have at least tied this game. We should have at least tied this game. And what are the storylines from this game? Well, we're actually pretty decent on offense. We're averaging 21 points a game. Last week we scored 23. This week we scored 19. So we're averaging 21 points a game. And has the Raiders averaged that in many years? Probably not. But Mikey Raider, it's only the preseason. I don't give a fuck. It's Raider season. That's first and foremost. That being said, our first string offense looked decent. I really finally enjoyed what I saw out of Ashton Jeanty compared to last week. Ashton Jeanty had about 7 or 8 carries for like 46 yards maybe, for an average of 4.7. And he had a touchdown. And he looked good. He looked every bit of the part of why we drafted him. So the people that want to complain about Ashton Jeanty's stance with the Raiders, I don't think that's going to be a big problem moving forward. But you know, the media, the press, whenever he has a bad game or a couple of bad snaps, the media is going to regurgitate that bullshit. What's the storyline from this game as well? Well, they're going to show Allegiant Stadium covered in red. That's right. There's going to be pictures and photos and videos of Raider Stadium, Allegiant Stadium, covered in red. And they're going to say, wow, how could you let this happen? Blah, blah, blah. All right. Well, first and foremost, I only see silver and black. So you motherfuckers that see red, y'all are 49er fans. Get the fuck out of here. Get on out of here. I only see silver and black. But if I did see red, it's blood in the water because we should have beat the 49ers. But that being said, the stadium's black. The seats are black. The sky is black. Everything's black at Allegiant Stadium. The Raider fans wear silver and black. So anytime you wear a bright color, it's going to pop out. But there is a little bit of a problem. I just don't want to admit it here because I only see silver and black. The Raiders' offensive line played decent. Finally living up to their name, and I enjoyed what I saw. Albeit there is a battle with JPJ and I forgot the guy's name at center, but it looks to be JPJ's job is now right guard. And he's probably still in a battle for that right guard position. The center, Jordan Meredith, I believe he has the center spot locked up as a veteran. And I'll be honest with you, on the Ashton Jeanty touchdown and a couple of other plays, JPJ missed a tackle. Not a tackle, but like the guy to block. JPJ just falls in the end zone. He avoids everybody. And I'm like, huh? Pick somebody and put a hat on them. So I had a little struggle with JPJ, even though he's a Raider fan favorite, and a lot of people are like, why the hell isn't he playing center? I don't give a fuck. Let the best player play center. Regardless if I love JPJ or not, his energy, and he's a Raider. It's fine. He's going to be a guard. but he needs to play better at guard. You guys watch his play. There's a little bit of struggles there at guard. And what did we see from our first string wide receivers? Well, Dante Thornton seems to be the DK Metcalf for Pete Carroll. Let's be honest. They went to him 3 or 4 times. He didn't catch it every time. He was out of bounds on another. But they are going to him for the long bombs and for his height. Jacoby Myers ran around the field a little bit. He got in a couple of screen passes thrown to him. And then Trey Tucker caught a big first down at one point. So our offense is actually improving. And I really, really enjoyed what I saw from our first string offense this week. We took it down there and we scored. And Gino was out of the game in the second quarter or in the middle of the first quarter. And then AOC came in. And we'll talk about that in a second. Now let's get to the first string defense. We're still struggling on the right side of the defensive line. If you're looking at it from the defensive side of the field, the right side of the line, we got balled up last week. They ran all over us on that right side, and they went at us again this week, the 49ers did, and they caught some big plays as well. They didn't have as much of a running attack versus us. They have a lot of injuries on the 49ers line or side of the ball. But that being said, our defensive line, we're showing some holes. And speaking of holes, I mean, our linebacker position is playing as decent as possible. We now have Jordan, what's his name, number 33. The former Seattle Seahawk is now playing linebacker and defensive edge rusher at certain times, rushing in there. Jamal Adams, forgive me. Jamal Adams is now playing linebacker instead of safety. For a person of his age coming off injuries, I could see why they did that. Jamal Adams is now playing a linebacker role for us because he can go back to that safety or cornerback position if needed on any certain play. But we're lacking clearly with speed at the linebacker position and coverage skills. So that's why a safety or slash cornerback is now playing linebacker on certain packages for the Raiders in terms of Jamal Adams. He had a couple of quarterback hits. One was in a penalty, but he looked okay. He looked speedy and quick, and he's really trying to make a name for himself on this team, and I enjoyed what I saw from that. And Tommy Eichenberg played decent at times, but speaking of holes, not only do we have a little bit of an issue at the linebacker position in terms of speed and coverage. Look, I love our cornerback room and our safety room with young players and upside. But they don't know how to cover the middle of the field. The 49ers and Ricky Pearsall and some of these other bitches just were constantly open. Constantly open. It's one thing if they catch the ball in a crowded territory, but they were wide open on quick slant plays and pass plays, and that needs to be fixed. Albeit they did not bend. I mean, they did not break. The Raiders bend. They didn't break. I believe it was Jeremy Chin had an interception in the game, like Isaiah Palomau last week, and Isaiah Palomau had a couple of nice tackles as well this week. And when it comes to the defensive line stopping the run, we did a pretty decent job. We gave up a couple of big runs there, but again, we had a bend, don't break strategy on our defensive line, and we held them pretty decently. I mean, if every time we go into a game they score less than 20 points, we should be able to win some games. Even though they won 22-19, we should have tied the game. Now, Aiden O'Connell, after last week, a lot of people thought he was going to be traded. All the clickbait motherfuckers on YouTube and Twitter, hey, O'Connell traded, fired. Yeah. I think I even wrote that in my channel. So, hey, call me a clickbaiter. Fuck it. But I talked about it. We all know he ain't going to be fired or traded. He ain't got no damn value for a 4th-round pick. But Aiden O'Connell came in this week's game, after another bad week of media and press relations at practice where we see him getting sacked a ton. Holding on to the ball, getting sacked a ton, not picking a player to throw to, and it happened again this week. Last week I was yelling on the live stream that Aiden O'Connell and Alex Bachman are best friends, and they keep doing this play where Alex Bachman takes a little 6-yard route and runs to the left toward the sidelines. And they did that play and they threw that play like 10 times last week. Well, they did it again this week. It's like they haven't added to their repertoire of playmaking abilities, or that Aiden O'Connell can't make these fucking plays. He's got to stick with the simple. And they did that again this week. Pre-scripted shit, and one of the damn 40-winers caught it and intercepted the ball from Aiden O'Connell in his weekly interception bid to be the highest intercepted quarterback in the preseason. So I didn't like that. Aiden O'Connell is looking down his receiver, and they know the plays, and, I mean, it's only preseason, and you hope it'll get better, but still, after 2 years on the Raiders and being a starter for 17 games, he's going against technically second stringers, and he's still throwing interceptions. He's still getting sacked much more than he should. He's not seeing the field correctly, and he's pre-scripting his plays without adding a pump fake, a this fake, a that fake, a look away. 2 years after starting 17 games, Aiden O'Connell has reached his ceiling. He is what he is. He's a backup. He's a decent backup. He's going to have good games, and he's going to have bad games. He's Aiden O'Connell. I'm sorry to say that and to give him this grade after the second preseason game of this season under a new offense or a new scheme for probably his 3rd year in a row. He's having the Derek Carr ritual joining the Raiders, where you got a new coordinator constantly every year. But still, he's reached his ceiling in my book. Coming off of last week's performance in the preseason, you would think he just would have amped it up a little bit more, but he didn't. He looked like the same old Aiden O'Connell. Nothing great, nothing too bad. Now, let's speak for the guy that everybody thinks is going to replace him, Cam Miller. Last week, he had an amazing pump fake, and he came in with juice and energy, and he's vying for that second-string job. He's got running skills with his legs. He's a poor man's Josh Allen. And after what we saw last week, did he jump his way up the roster? Not completely, but he definitely showed the team enough to have him start the entire 4th quarter, I believe it was. And he struggled. He struggled, but they at least put in a couple of RPO plays with him. But the 49ers team was ready for it. They knew that he was going to do that type of stuff, and they just couldn't get it started. He made a couple of plays in the couple of series that he was in. We drove the ball down the field to get a field goal to make the game 19-16, I believe it was at one point, or 19-19. And Cam Miller, he did what he needed to do. He got sacked a couple of times as well because they were blitzing him. But he got outplayed by another former Raider. That's right, Carter Bradley, the Raiders' 3rd-string quarterback that was released 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, signed with the 49ers like 2 weeks ago. And he came in, he drove them down the field for a couple of field goals to win the game. He played better than Cam Miller did this week. So we got out-Raidered. I don't know. But still, overall, I liked what I saw from our team. I really did. I don't consider this game a loss, even though it is on the record books. Should have been at least a tie. But we won in my book because our first-string offense finally played a little bit more cohesive and a little bit longer today. And I loved every minute of it. And I see a lot of promise in Ashton Jeanty, Dante Thornton, and I'm really, really excited to see them moving forward. Now, I don't know if Jakobi Meyers is going to take a seat back under Geno Smith. We saw a couple of big plays from Brock Bowers this week as well, so he looks like to be in true form. But let's be honest, how many times throughout his career has Geno Smith targeted a tight end more than wide receivers? In this offense, I think that's what they're going to do. That's why Jakobi Meyers, I don't know, he's like the gadget player, it looks like now. When they're not targeting Bowers and they're not going for the DK Metcalf role with Dante Thornton, Jakobi Meyers is going to be that receiver that'll probably go everywhere and nowhere, if you know what I'm saying. But he's such a veteran presence, he's going to get his targets, and he's going to catch a lot of balls. But I don't see him, actually, I don't see anybody on this Raiders squad that would be considered that true number one that we go to, like a Justin Jefferson, like a Jamar Chase. We don't have that as of right now. But they're clearly hoping Dante Thornton can be that DK Metcalf role under Pete Carroll's offense. And that's kind of looking interesting. So for fantasy football, of course, if Jakobi Meyers is there late in the drafts, you pick him up. Of course, you pick up Brock Bowers if you can. But Dante Thornton might be one of those handcuffs that later in a fantasy football draft you might think about picking up, because he might end up having a bigger role than people think this season. Ashton Jeanty's a fucking stud, and I loved what I saw from him. And one other thing that I did notice was on the sidelines. Whenever they cut to the sidelines, even with the third quarter, the fourth quarter, the third string, the fourth string, whatever you want to call it, Pete Carroll has the team cheering on the players for a tackle. There was a couple of moments that it didn't really mean anything, and the Raiders defense made a tackle, and then they cut to the sidelines, and you see Max Crosby and everybody else there. Yeah! Yeah! That's how you build up the amplification of these young players and their egos to try to keep fighting and balling. Because the 49ers team was driving. They were just driving. And then the defense finally, started to bend and not break, and they made a good play. And Pete Carroll's got the team juiced up on the sidelines. He must have gave him some of that Gatorade gum. That Raider Gatorade gum, you know what I'm saying? But I appreciated that. Win, lose, or tie, Raiders till I die. That being said, if there's anything I missed from today's game that you wanted me to talk about that I didn't, please forgive me. I didn't see much from Jack Besh. Didn't see much from Tommy Mellett. Didn't see much from Zeus White. He was the press darling this week that they wanted to talk about. How Zeus White is Pete Carroll's favorite. Woo. Dylan Lobb caught a couple of passes and ran it a little bit and made some good plays. But, yeah. When you overall look at our team so far, we're kind of average. That's a little bit of a concern coming into this season, because they're predicting that we win 6.5 games is the over-under. And for the damn life of me, I have to admit the media's been right the past couple years when predicting the Raiders' win-loss totals. We're average right now. We got to get some stars, some playmakers in the next 3 to 4 or 5 weeks to really all of a sudden put it all together and become that star-studded player that nobody knew was on the roster. And the players that I think can do that is Dante Thornton. That dude, if he can put a couple of more things together, that dude could be a real good standout for this team. And that would propel us to be much more of a even better roster moving forward. Now, it doesn't mean we'll win 10 games, but we'll at least have 2 or 3 playmakers on this team on offense. And we got a starting foundation that I'm starting to enjoy moving forward. And you got to love Geno Smith flipping off the Seattle fans with Max Crosby last week and Pete Carroll defending him when he was asked, did you see Geno Smith flip off the Seattle fans? And then Pete Carroll said, did you see the fucking sign they had? Yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right, they're definitely ingratiating themselves to become real Raiders and true Raiders, and I appreciate that. I like the family. I like the foundation we're building. We're still average, but we are going to get better. And let's be honest, I'm not saying it feels like a Super Bowl season, but it feels like an actual football, family, foundational season under Pete Carroll, even though we had a little bit of turmoil a couple of weeks back with Wilkins. I'm Mikey Raider. Let me know your MVP from the game. It's Ashton JEANTY for me, because I liked what I saw. He came out to play. And Raheem Mostert, in my opinion, is the backup, the best backup we have so far moving forward for Ashton JEANTY. And I'll leave it at that. I'll see you guys on the... Oh, I'm sorry I didn't go live to watch the game, but I haven't been feeling so good. A couple other things on my mind. So I hope y'all understand. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed, stay Raider. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace. Raiders for life.